Hi, Odyssey Recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain an action drama movie named Chronicle. Feel free to share your preferences for the types of movies you'd like to see more of in the comments section below. Andrew, a teenager in Seattle, lives with his sick mom and mean dad. He doesn't have many friends and isn't well known at school. Fed up with his dad's meanness, Andrew buys a camera to scare him. He says he'll record everything from now on. Andrew visits his sick mom, Karen, who wishes him a good day at school. Then, his cousin and best friend, Matt, picks him up and they go to school together. Matt shares some wise thoughts from philosophers he's been reading, and Andrew jokes with him. During school, Andrew records various places like where he eats and hangs out. Some kids bully Andrew, taking his camera and teasing him before finally giving it back after making fun of him. Later, Matt invites Andrew to a party, but Andrew says no. Matt insists, thinking it'll be good for Andrew, so Andrew reluctantly agrees. At home, Andrew watches his recordings until his dad, Richard, comes in and hits him, telling him to obey. At the party, Andrew records people having fun and dancing after he and Matt split up. Andrew notices Casey, a girl who also vlogs her day. Matt tries to impress Casey with philosophical talk, but it's awkward. Andrew faces trouble when a guy accuses him of filming his girlfriend. He leaves the party, goes to the parking lot, and cries while cleaning his camera. Andrew feels frustrated, like he doesn't fit in with the crowd. Steve, the popular kid running for class president, invites Andrew to join him and his friends. He mentions finding something in the woods and asks Andrew to film it. Andrew agrees and joins them. They arrive at a hole in the middle of a clearing. They hear strange sounds from the pit, so Steve decides to explore and dives in. They venture deeper and discover a cavern with a huge glowing crystal. Suddenly, it starts humming, and everything shakes before going dark. Several weeks later, Matt, Steve, and Andrew are in a backyard playing catch. When Matt throws the ball to Steve, it unexpectedly swerves and hits Steve sideways. Matt throws the ball at Andrew, who stops it mid-air using his mind. Andrew's nose starts bleeding, and he drops the ball. Later, they play with Lego pieces and realize they can move them without touching them, thanks to the mysterious crystal. They then try to return to the hole but find it completely filled with dirt. The authorities arrive and warn the boys to stay away from the spot. On their ride home, Steve and Andrew discuss their families. Andrew shares about his mom and his father, who used to be a fireman but now stays at home due to an accident, collecting insurance checks from the government. Steve also opens up about some issues with his parents. At home, Andrew practices levitating his camera. He overhears his father on the phone, pleading for more medical help for Karen. Richard admits he can't afford Karen's medication, and her condition is deteriorating. The next day, Andrew takes Karen for a stroll in the marina, and they have a wonderful time together. Later, the boys are outside practicing their powers by throwing stones at a lake. Andrew asks Matt if he likes him. Matt says he does, but he found Andrew difficult to talk to before. Andrew then asks Matt if he thinks they can do more with their powers. At school, Matt suggests that their power is like a muscle that they have to train to make it stronger. The night before, he mentions that he could lift his bed off the ground without getting a nosebleed. If they try to lift something too heavy or do something too complicated, it would strain their power, causing their nose to start bleeding. He recommends taking it slow to enhance their strength. Andrew then proposes practicing their abilities in a public place, so they agree to do it at a supermarket. They start playing harmless pranks on people. Andrew makes a grocery cart roll away, Steve scares a child by levitating a stuffed animal, and Matt attempts to retrieve a piece of gum from someone's mouth but accidentally hits them instead. At a diner, Andrew tests their powers by attempting to stab Matt with a fork, demonstrating how their abilities can protect them from sharp objects and projectiles. Afterwards, Andrew creates an image of the Virgin Mary on his pancake plate, startling one of the waitresses. The boys are having a blast, using their powers recklessly. In the parking lot, Steve attempts to prank a woman by moving her car to another spot successfully. Matt and Andrew are amazed, realizing that this is probably the heaviest thing any of them have lifted. Steve's nose starts bleeding heavily, but he insists he feels okay. The woman returns, and they all laugh at her confusion. Later, as they drive home, a truck behind them starts honking. Andrew tries to intervene by making the pickup truck swerve slightly, but he applies too much force. The truck swerves off the road, plunging into a ravine and landing in a river. The boys quickly rush to help, with Steve diving into the water to rescue the driver. They then call the police for assistance. Steve appears visibly shaken by the incident, prompting Matt to confront Andrew. Andrew seems distant and detached as Matt admonishes him, emphasizing the gravity of putting someone's life in danger. Matt acknowledges that their powers are becoming stronger and more difficult to manage, suggesting they establish some rules. The next day, they reunite with Steve at a landfill and find him levitating above them. He encourages them to give it a try. Matt attempts first but struggles to lift off, falling on his face multiple times. Andrew then tries and successfully levitates, feeling thrilled that he can float. He joins Steve, and they both cheer. Later, the boys are soaring through the clouds, speeding past each other at breakneck speeds. They even start tossing a football, catching it in midair. As they slow down and float above, a plane suddenly flies past them. Steve gets knocked out, and Andrew quickly flies in to save him. Andrew manages to grab Steve, but they continue falling. Just moments before hitting the ground, Andrew slows their descent, and they land safely without injury. Matt joins them, and they all burst into laughter and cheers, thrilled by the realization that they're the first humans to fly. They gather for a sleepover at Steve's house, and Andrew shares that it has been the best day of his life. The next day at school, they plan a trip around the world, intending to fly to their dream destinations. Steve mentions a weekend trip to Hawaii. Matt meets with Casey and gives her a donation for the drought she discussed in one of her vlogs. Casey suggests he could have just mailed it himself. She questions Matt about his sudden change, mentioning how he used to be too smart to hang out with and now seems to care more about world issues and spending time with people. Matt explains that he's changed and now has a better understanding of people. He expresses his desire to hang out with Casey, but she closes the door on him. Meanwhile, Andrew and Steve spend time together on top of a building. Steve is impressed by Andrew's skill in using his power, particularly his ability to levitate his camera with finesse. Andrew admits to feeling lonely for a long time before they gain their powers. Despite being cousins, Matt and Steve didn't spend much time together. Steve suggests they enter the school talent show, offering to assist Andrew with the performance. Andrew begins preparing for the talent show and shows off his outfit to Karen. As Andrew prepares to leave, Richard calls him and expresses suspicion, claiming he knows Andrew is up to something. At the talent show, Matt operates the camera while running into Casey, who is also recording the event. Steve and Andrew take the stage for their magic show. Andrew effortlessly performs illusions and tricks using his telekinetic abilities, making the feats appear child's play. The duo puts on a spectacular show, receiving cheers and applause from their classmates and schoolmates throughout the performance. Matt and Andrew later attend a house party where they are warmly greeted by everyone. Finally, Andrew feels noticed and appreciated, which is incredibly validating for him. He meets a pink-haired girl at the party, and they hit it off immediately, engaging in enjoyable conversation. While Andrew has fun at the party, Matt is left behind with the camera. Matt leaves a heartfelt message for Andrew, but Casey notices him and invites him to exit the party. Upon going upstairs, he finds Andrew has vomited all over the girl he was with. Matt enters, laughing, but Andrew is upset by the situation. The next day, Andrew plays with a spider before levitating it and splitting it into pieces. Richard is then shown searching through Andrew's room and finds the camera. He confronts Andrew about spending money on the camera instead of having enough for his mother's medication. Richard continues shouting at him, and Andrew responds, angering Richard further. Richard attacks Andrew, pinning him down, but Andrew fights back, using his powers to overpower Richard. He warns Richard that he could crush him if he wanted to and throws him to the floor, leaving Richard moaning in pain. Meanwhile, Matt is with Casey when his nose starts bleeding, even though he hasn't used his powers. Andrew is shown in the middle of a thunderstorm, crying. Steve arrives, explaining that his nose started bleeding and he heard Andrew's voice calling to him. Andrew tries to dismiss him, but Steve urges him to calm down and come back to the ground. However, Andrew becomes even angrier, and suddenly lightning strikes. As time passes, Andrew is seen recording a funeral. Andrew notices Casey and Matt among the attendees at the funeral, along with their other classmates. Andrew realizes that Steve had been struck by lightning and died. He also notices Matt glaring at him. After the service, Matt confronts Andrew about what happened to Steve, questioning how he got struck by lightning when there were no recorded lightning strikes. Matt demands Andrew to tell the truth, but Andrew remains silent. He avoids the confrontation and flies away. The following day, Andrew returns to Steve's grave, offering an apology. He admits he didn't know what happened and believes he must have lost control. Returning to the pit where they gain their powers, Andrew finds it overgrown with grass, with a pattern starting to form around it. Andrew heads to school and witnesses people ridiculing him for vomiting at the party, including the pink-haired girl and her friends who join in making fun of him. The bully also taunts him, mocking his vomiting. Overwhelmed by anger, Andrew confronts the bully and forcefully pulls out several of his teeth. In a junkyard, Andrew addresses his camera, discussing evolution and the idea of an apex predator. He reflects on how predators don't experience guilt when hunting their prey, drawing parallels to humans not feeling remorse when accidentally harming smaller creatures like ants, flies, or mosquitoes. Andrew compares himself to a human apex predator, acknowledging that his abilities may cause harm to others, but for him, it's simply part of his nature. He demonstrates his power by effortlessly crushing a car behind him, illustrating his dominance. Matt bursts into Andrew's room, discovering what happened at school with the bully. He emphasizes the importance of adhering to their rules, expressing concern that they're becoming too powerful for their own good. Matt warns Andrew that he'll have to intervene if Andrew continues to harm people. As they argue, Matt throws a punch, but Andrew catches his fist. Matt departs abruptly, leaving Andrew alone. Andrew heads to the pharmacy to purchase more medication for his mother, but the pharmacist informs him he doesn't have enough money. Faced with desperation, Andrew resolves to take more drastic measures to help his mother. He dons his father's old firefighter's suit and sets out to forcibly obtain money from people. Andrew first targets the men on his street who have mocked him in the past. Using his powers, he blasts them away, smashing them into cars and onto the asphalt, rendering them all unconscious within seconds. He collects all their money before moving on to a gas station. There, he disables the cashier and empties the cash register, taking all the money. As Andrew attempts to leave, the cashier pursues him with a shotgun. Andrew swiftly disarms the cashier, causing the shotgun to accidentally discharge, hitting a gasoline tank. Andrew catches fire and loses consciousness as a result of the explosion. Andrew is admitted to the hospital, and Richard is notified. Upon entering Andrew's room, Richard breaks down in tears. He reveals to the unconscious Andrew that Karen has passed away. Richard then blames Andrew for her death, believing she wouldn't have died if he hadn't been searching for Andrew. Richard's shouting escalates as he orders Andrew to apologize for Karen's death. The intensity of his yelling increases until Andrew finally wakes up. Meanwhile, Matt is at a birthday party when his nose begins to bleed. Sensing something amiss, he recognizes a news report detailing an explosion at the hospital, immediately connecting it to Andrew. Matt and Casey quickly leave the party and race to the hospital. Upon arrival, they witness Andrew lifting Richard and dropping him. Matt rushes to catch Richard mid-air, revealing his ability to fly to everyone present. They quickly retreat to the car, but Andrew intercepts them, lifting the car to the top of the Space Needle before dropping them. In a daring move, Matt grabs Casey and flies her to safety just in time. As people record the chaotic scene on their cell phones, police and medical personnel work to manage the situation. Matt flies up to Andrew, attempting to calm him down and reason with him. Andrew expresses his deep-seated resentment, stating that he has always been treated poorly and sees this as his opportunity to seek revenge for everything he's endured. Matt makes a heartfelt promise to Andrew, pledging to help him transform his life and suggesting they run away together to start anew. However, before Matt can finish speaking, Andrew hurls a bus at him. Andrew then lands atop a building, and Matt rises to confront him. A fierce battle ensues between Andrew and Matt, with the two of them being thrown around the city as they clash. Despite the chaos, Matt persistently tries to persuade Andrew to cease his rampage. As the police surround them, Matt is shot, prompting Andrew to blast the officers back before flying away. The confrontation continues at a plaza in front of a building, where the police once again encircle them. Despite Matt's pleas, Andrew remains resolute and ignores him. When the police open fire, Andrew uses his powers to stop all the bullets. Andrew's shouts shake the buildings, raining debris on them. Matt begs him to spare the cops, but Andrew is beyond reason. Realizing there's no other option, Matt takes a steel spear and impales Andrew through the chest with it, knowing it's the only way to stop him. The police cautiously approach, but Matt suddenly regains consciousness, flying up and escaping into the sky. Time elapses, and Matt is depicted soaring above snowy mountaintops. He addresses a camera as if it were Andrew, panning it over various Tibetan monk temples. With a sense of closure, Matt bids farewell to Andrew and moves on. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.